Discover your family history.
Still an everyday struggle trying to get fed. Need a spot at the table for my daily bread. Wonder why we thuggin', though we misled. It's dog when we trying to break the daily bread. You can feel the hunger through an op-ed. Don't cover how we suffer for the daily bread. Sometimes that pressure make me feel like I'ma lose my head. To make sure my young seeds get their daily bread. Waking up to the traffic in the sunrise. Just another day trying to strategize. Mama running late for work, thinking strike two. Third job this year, cause it's nothing new. Trying to stay in school, trying to learn something. It's hard to get your mind right when your ribs touch. Teacher think I'm mugging, that's just hunger pains. Not being cinematic, but it's Hunger Games. Try to play it off, mute the suffering. But my stomach break the silence when it's grumbling. So it's quarter cakes, chips, and ramens. Hunger is something one of five shorties got in common. Hit up corner stores, no fresh markets around. Sustained from the shelf, no food straight from the ground. Multiply that times all the hoods in my town. We playing in the field, but nobody working the ground. Still an everyday struggle trying to get fed. Need a spot at the table for my daily bread. Wonder why we thuggin', though we misled. It's dog when we trying to break the daily bread. You can feel the hunger through an op-ed. Don't cover how we suffer for the daily bread. Sometimes the pressure make me feel like I'ma lose my head. To make sure my seeds get their daily bread.
Some scrape their bread up from the crumbs left on the table. Sipping pot liquor to ease that rumbling coming from behind their navel. You're making that bread when you need your own dough. And the sharpest knife in the drawer can get a slice off that loaf. It's the life that I chose, but this life it chose me. You see, my daddy was a soldier and my mama a G. I'm talking integrity, legacy, how to march when I step. If Granny cooked it, all you heard was to nothing left. Heard a scrape on the plate, but if you don't work, you don't eat. You gotta earn your own keep. What a man sows is what a man reaps. Daddy took his machete, then he handed to me and said, keep swinging and chopping until the way I can see. Adorn the armor of God when I step on the street, knowing the Lord protected me from my head to my feet. When Daddy took his old machete, then he handed to me and said, keep swinging and chopping until the way I can see my daily bread.
Still an everyday struggle trying to get fed. Need a spot at the table for my daily bread. Wonder why we thuggin', though we misled. It's dog when we're trying to break the daily bread. You can't feel the hunger through an op-ed. We gon' cover how we suffer for the daily bread. Sometimes that pressure make me feel like I'ma lose my head. To make sure my young seeds get their daily bread.
What's growing on? What's growing on? What is growing on? Welcome back to another episode of B1AG Daily Bread Podcast. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're feeling wonderful. I hope you're feeling prosperous. I hope you feel like you're in a growth state of mind. I'm John Hennry Harris, and we have Farmer Brown the MC, and we are back again to bring you this B1AG culture content dealing with Black agriculture, agricultural production, education, marketing, nutrition, and economics for the Black family and the Black community. Today we have a pretty interesting story, I think, and I hope that you will enjoy it and get a lot from it. It's called Straight Outta Compton. A huge vertical farm bringing fresh food and jobs to Compton, California. This is a very this is a 180 from when you hear Compton, California. You know, most people that think about, gangster rap, NWA, gang culture, drug culture, police brutality, all these societal ills. that was brought to the forefront of the consciousness of America, during the late 80s and early 90s, as hip hop took bloom in Compton, California. But now we have Plenty Unlimited Incorporated. Now, what they are, they're a vertical farm company, and they're opening its second and largest vertical farm in Compton, California. And now this vertical farm is set to stimulate the local economy as well as bring new jobs and fresh produce to the area, and which helps with shore up food insecurity and helps shore up the local food system. Now, this is a solution that makes dollars and cents. And we're going to talk about this today as urban farming and large scale vertical farms are sure to become the norm in this country as they try to stimulate local economies as well as deal with food insecurity and food deserts. Farmer Brown, it's a lot to tackle, but I think I'm ready to get my straight out of Compton strawberries. What about you?
B1AG. I want the bag. Work my way from a garden to a track. Flip it from a track to a plot full of acres. Do it for the farmers and producers and the makers. First, I just like to say peace to the B1AG family. Hope everybody's doing well, staying alert in these interesting times. Yeah, man. When I was 13, I remember, back when we were growing up, mom wasn't with me and my sister listening to hip hop too much, so we would have to sneak. But one of the things that really got me into hip hop was Snoop Dogg, Death Row, the Chronic. And I remember, my friends would sneak me cassette tapes. I know a lot of the younger generation don't even know what cassette tapes are, but it really influenced my view of the world. And I remember even out here in Kentucky, we wanted to make a make-believe Compton, in Lexington. We were wanting to turn Northside Lex into Compton. And when you think about here at B1AG, we talk about social marketing, cultural marketing. Culture is a capital. And when we think about the importance of Compton, just that, part of what we call North America is very influential. And so I think this is very timely for this particular location to take this on. And when we think about ag tech, a lot of times when we think about technology, we think about robots, transformers, and when we think about ag, we think about, plows, cows, and tractors. And so I think this is definitely a great example of how you incorporate ag tech. Tech being just using something different than your fingers to achieve an ends. When we're looking at the bag, and so this facility, particularly in Compton, they've literally condensed 700 acres into 95,000 square feet. This is technology at its finest. And according to market analysts, and so right now, in 2020, ag tech alone, and this isn't incorporating all of the other fields within ag tech alone is a $9 billion a year industry. This is globally. In 5 years, it's projected to rise 150% to more than 22.5 billion. This is globally. Once again, when we tie in the importance of Compton and how it's affected not only the world, but specifically the B1AG community, these are great opportunities for us to really explore here in this next 5 years. If I have a ninth grader who's looking to go to college or looking to get a trade, these are definitely fields to look into. And if it can be done in Compton, if we picked up smoking the chronic, all the other things we picked up from Compton culture, I think this is a great thing to pick up from Compton. And so I look forward to having this discussion.
Now, I think I would like to bring to the B1AG families, just bring it to you that Compton's mayor is Mayor Aja Brown. She's a black woman. Let me give you a picture of her real quick. This is Aja Brown. When she was elected Compton mayor in 2013 at the age of 31, at the time that was the youngest mayor ever elected to the city of Compton. Now, she ran on the platform of a new vision for Compton. That was her platform. She got a degree in urban planning and community development. So her bringing agriculture into the socioeconomic fabric of Compton is something that's a seed she planted a very, very long time ago that is just now coming into fruition. So that sister definitely deserves, the finger snaps and hand claps and everything that's positive due to her for being a national trailblazer for her new vision for Compton. This is a very replicable process. Do you expect to see this at every major city across the country, Farmer Brown?
We really don't have a choice. And so in Compton, for example, they say 1 out of 4, which is generally the national average, especially when you're talking about the B1AG community, is food insecure. When you think about the West Coast right now and what they're dealing with as far as the upcoming droughts, and I'm not going to say upcoming, there's already water issues. And so one of the things when you're really breaking down the science of agriculture, how to make it work, how to manage your natural resources, when you're doing an indoor ag operation like that, you're really condensing your water resources. Shots to the sister in New York that got her own water source. There's a little bit more water in New York than California because California is very intensive when we think about a lot of the non-seasonal fruits and vegetables that we eat. A lot of that comes from the West Coast. And so unintentional byproduct of that is there's water shortages. And so with this operation that they have in Compton, the producers are able to actually, condense where they're putting their water. And so it's one thing, okay, I'm just, irrigating this whole 15,000 or 1,500 acre plot of land versus, okay, you have this in 95,000 square feet. It's a lot easier to pinpoint where you're directing your water source. And so, yes, this you're saying, can this be a model? It's inevitably going to have to be a model. Water doesn't just necessarily replenish itself. This planet, once it was made, once it was created, however you ascribe to, how this came about, it's 75 to 80% water. That just is what it is. I mean, you obviously can't water with the water particles in the air. And so you're going to have to use the flowing water for the irrigation needs. And so once again, when we think about how are ways to apply ag tech, when we think about, being more sustainable, taking a more holistic approach to how we produce our food, this model represents, like you said, an icon for many of us to learn from. Like I said, the East Coast is very different than the West Coast. Down South is very different than the West Coast. But I think the lessons to be learned from the way this sister put this together is something that can definitely be incorporated wherever we're at, because we definitely need to be more specific with the resources that we're using. Not to get off on a tangent, but in the B1AG community, especially the ag community, they say when white America catches a cold, Black America catches the pneumonia. When you think about how resources are being distributed even now as we have these discussions, if this it's becoming a problem, you got to know that there's not going to be a groundswell of leaders and decision makers and influencers who are like, okay, we're about to have a shortage on this natural resource called water. So let us make sure that we get this to the B1 community first. That's not going to happen. Sisters like Sister McCarthy up in New York, she was ahead of the game in procuring her water source. But I'm thinking about, the Goldman Sachs 10 billion, these are definitely things for the sisters who's going to get rained on to figure out how they can make it rain in their respective communities. Because once again, we really have to be practical when we're thinking about where do we fit within this broader dynamic. It's not a thing where somebody can stop us, but we also have to value what this means, what this model in Compton means as far as how do we apply it to a codified approach towards making sure we get to the next day, the next year, the next decade, the next generation.
And I know I just want to read a quote from Mayor Aja Brown. We are happy to see the Plenty Farm start to grow its roots in the community during the build-out process, says Mayor Aja Brown. Many residents rely on CareerLink to guide them in the right direction. So I know plenty will find wonderful, qualified candidates right here in our city. The vegetables Plenty produces will be proudly grown and managed by Compton residents, and we look forward to creating a solid partnership with them. So this is a solution that addresses food insecurity head on. Um, it's creating local jobs and it's building out the local food system and expanding that economy as well. So this is a solution that not only makes dollars, it makes sense. So of course, and plus with the you have to think about it. We got Bill Gates and all these other tech guys buying up all the farmland. Farmland is at a premium. There's just not a lot of space to grow food, that's accessible to us. So we have to get creative. Like I said, 700 acres condensed down to 95,000 square feet in one warehouse. Hey, y'all, that's condensing 700 acres down to two. Think about that. You're going to produce 700 acres worth of food in the same square feet footage of 2 square acres. And with the high demand on the resources, on the natural resources, water and land, as well as uh, the growing demand on food production, like I said, it makes sense, and it's going to make dollars as well.
Bro, I don't know the population density of Compton, but this operation alone created 50 jobs. This is 50 human beings. It is my hope that the majority of which are in the B1AG community. This is 50 jobs. These are practical, realistic jobs, no different than going to a factory, no different than going wherever we're working. So once again, when you talk about how do we apply this on a more national scale, how many cities do the B1 family live in? We live in a lot of these cities. When we think about, I've had a lot of people reach out talking about, man, I want to get involved. I don't necessarily have a green thumb. I really don't have time to get out there on the farm. You might be in the real estate. And so once again, this model, and you don't necessarily have to have the same amount of space. But like Bruh said, they were able to condense 700 acres into two, basically. And so maybe you can condense half of that, 350 acres, into one. When you think about all of the distressed properties right now, and pretty much any area or community where we live in right now, these are investment opportunities. I'm not going to sell wolf tickets and say, oh yeah, you can just buy a old distressed, dilapidated building and just start gardening, because there are inputs. You obviously have to put in your infrastructure to create these, but these become investment opportunities. This is why being on this Boss Sports Network, shout to Dr. Boyce. This is why this is important. People that are wanting to invest, the stock market is definitely a great thing to invest in, but also the food market. We see that this is where food production is going to go. And so instead of being the, what do they say, late adapters, this is our opportunity, because, personally, in my opinion, the field has never been more leveled. Since our ancestors lost all this land, a century ago, the field, when it comes to our production, food production, has never been more leveled. And so this is opportunity for, visionaries who can see farther than next week, farther than the next police shooting, farther than the next bill or legislation that's passed that doesn't address our needs. This is the opportunity to invest in something real. You see what I'm saying? And so I got a story for you. So the other day, Sister Bingham, shout out to Sister Bingham. So she was telling me her daughter. Now, I went to school with her daughter for a little bit, and she's got to be, maybe 25 by now. I think it's interesting that this mayor was 31. Here at B1AG, we like to be very concise when we're talking about these strategies. So anyway, she was saying her daughter is going into law, but she didn't really know a specific area of law to go into. It's on subject, but off. This woman is into ag, and she became the mayor of a municipality, a popular one. She is applying her agricultural prowess. I don't know what her specific degree was in, But because she had an understanding of agriculture at the age of 31, which is young, she was able to apply this in a political sense. Once again, a lot of times when we think about agriculture, we're just looking at it in the field or a grocery store. But agriculture touches every area of human activity, whether you're talking about war, sex, politics. Those are just a few. But I suggested, what about environmental law? We know of specifically ag producers and landowners. Melanated farmers only represent less than 1.4% of the producers and only hold 0.04% of the ag properties. And so this is a big need for people might want to go into law. We need people represented on all aspects when we're talking about natural resources. But once again, the mayor in Compton, she's a prime example of, even though it doesn't seem like she's, pulling up at the podium in overalls and a straw hat, she has made an impact in agriculture. Personally, I'm motivated. I guess I come from more of an education marketing standpoint when it comes to, my niche in agriculture. But I mean, there's so many niches, and, I get it, like a puppy got his tail going. I'm a little older than a puppy, but this is how I feel right now. And this story, this is why it's so big. This is why I hope the B1AG community can understand how important this moment in time is. As we're watching people just getting shot with and cops getting off with no sort of punishment, as it looks like we're going to have another summer that Brother Tariq Nasheed said, pull-up summer. We're going to have another summer of a lot of people frustrated with these injustices that we see going on. It's my hope that, at some point we realize, okay, we're giving these people way too much energy. We're giving these people way too much free rent in our minds. And so if we can look at all of these examples, like some of the people we highlight here on B1AG, if we can apply these examples in our local communities, it's not that everybody's going to jump into agriculture. It's not that everybody's going to become a producer, a mayor, a marketer. But I can't stress enough, there are so many different niches just within producing our own food. If we can look at icons like this Compton model, this will definitely be huge, not only on a personal, health-wise, food security, but these become the jobs of the future. Like I said at the beginning, so just in 2020, it was a $9 billion, global industry. It's expected in 5 years, not 50, not 10, in 5 years to increase 150%. These are, a lot of people, we think the white man's ice is colder and their knowledge is more important. This is what the white folks are saying. And so once again, when we think about how Compton, it tied together because it all goes together when we talk about social marketing. Compton changed the music game. I know you grew up at a time when VH1 MTV didn't play no rap music. It was the rock, it was the ZZ Top, But think about just when Death Row Records came about, NWA, a little bit before Death Row. But think about how rap in a relatively short amount of time, if we're just looking at Compton, think about how it changed how VH1 did business. VH1 being the ag industry. Think about how it changed how MTV did business. MTV representing the ag operation. It changed the game to where over the course of maybe 15 to 20 years, hip hop had become the largest music in the planet. And this was social marketing. Lessons that we can learn from hip hop is we didn't understand, as a community, didn't understand the value because we were entertained by the music. Same way with food, we're fed by the food. So a lot of times, many of us don't think about, what are the processes, what are the roles and the niches, what are the financial opportunities within how we're getting this food. Same way with the record companies. We were talking about Master P and how he took his understanding of just, putting his hand in a lot of different pots. He's an asset to agriculture. This man has the mindset of, I'm going to create a market. And so what if we have a Master P mixed with somebody like this mayor who understood we want to make it rain on some of these urban ag operations? Once again, these are all the areas that agriculture touches. When we talk about the cultural importance of Compton, how do we pull a hip hop move with food production? Because I promise you, it hadn't been done. Our ancestors a long time ago, whether you're talking about the autochthonous indigenous ancestors here or Africa or all around the diaspora, they mastered the concept of producing food. When they were producing food, it wasn't a global market. You know, you talk about the Olmecs, you know, different and Mallory and Morris, people that traveled around the world trading, but it was nowhere near as extensive as, you know, our trade and global market now. And another story we'll get into at another time. You think about the shipping containers that's just sitting on the coast of California. Ironically, we're talking about California right now. There was a huge blockage because of the Suez Canal a few weeks ago. And so what's happening, you know, what the Most High, something is telling us, y'all better localize y'all's food system. And so there is a mixture of just ancestral knowledge of producing food on top of, taking just what we call it, that black magic, and applying it to just specifically producing our food. You're literally creating, I would say, millions of jobs if we're able to apply models similar to this around the country, around the diaspora.
In a lot of big cities, the former industrial cities, they are looking towards agriculture to deal with their urban blight, urban flight, as well as boost their local economy and community development. You got cities like Chicago, Atlanta, Detroit. They are implementing are turning to agriculture to deal with these society ills. And I do have a short video. It's about 6 minutes that I would like to play for y'all just to show what other cities are doing. So, handle the business first. Put out the copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that may otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. All right, y'all, let me get y'all to this video. And this city that they're highlighting is Chicago.
So this land that we're currently on has been vacant for 50 years, since the riots in the 60s. Why not create something that would, one, benefit the community, but also employ the community? And so that's just kind of how it was birthed.
There was 5,000 vacant lots in Inglewood, and that a lot of these lots were, not owned by anyone but the city. And of course, these lots were full of trash and people reselling drugs, hanging out. The organization did a massive push to get the city to allow them to purchase the vacant lots. When we first started this garden, there was all this overgrowth where people literally would go in the street until they passed this area because they were afraid that something would jump out. That's how it is, right? So we've reduced the fear on our block. AUA came at that time and they helped me lay some of the footwork.
There's lots of refugees in Chicago. There's lots of urban agriculture, and it just seemed like a perfect fit. There was a real need, and this was like an opportunity to really help people who had been farmers in their home country who got plopped in Chicago reconnect with their roots.
We want to educate people to eat healthy. We're both Mexicans. Both of our families have a history of diabetes, and we want to educate people how they could eat healthier and reduce the risk or diminish the effects that these diseases have.
So initially, it was never to be just a food garden. My vision was always for it to be a community garden, a place where people could come and participate in all types of workshops on different types of topics, such as domestic violence, social media behavior for young people. That's really the usage of the garden, right? Just to open it up to community.
Our generation has kind of lost that touch of where our food comes from because, we're used to convenience. So we take in the students, they learn all about urban agriculture, they get trauma counseling. They get exposed to different fields of work in different industries.
Through AUA, I was peer up at the Farmer to Farmer mentorship program with the Catatumbo Co-op, and it was a great learning experience for me as a mentor, and it was a great relationship development with them.
Urban Produce is so exciting. Our founder and our co-owners, Barry and Alicia, want to create a whole ecosystem here in Chicago for people that live here. We want to make sure people are getting safe food, good food.
AUA really helped to really guide and lead them in the right directions. And I think without that particular guidance, we wouldn't have been able to have this huge expansion that you guys are looking at today.
Part of our grant with the marketing is we're going to get GAP certification, the good agricultural practices, so we can standardize our post-harvest handling and get that certification so we can sell to more commercial customers. The COVID grant was probably the biggest connection, and they provided us with funding so that we could buy masks for all of our farmers and hand sanitizer and cabinets so that we could store things. And so AUA has given us the funding to provide all of that to our farmers.
When I started having problems with getting the water permit, my husband was saying, well, maybe we should reach out to some other organizations to see if they had having the same issue. AUA got back to me and said, yeah, there's a bunch of other people that are having the same issue as you. They have actually taken up the banner and helped a lot of people in the, in the gardening world, in the farm world, in the community.
AUA has just always been there for us. And I'd like to have this be more of a resource for the community.
Want to make sure that we continue to help people make their dreams come true. All entrepreneurs to be able to have a place to sell the items that they're either making or growing. I'm very grateful for their support they have provided me throughout all this time, this 4 years that I've been growing.
Whatever we do here, it's not an individual thing. That EGMK is built on the success from others. Because for community to take more ownership of some of the projects and the ideas and some of the things that we do. Really, really, really open up to community. Come, help us weed. Whatever type of inroads you want to make this place a better place for community, for you as an individual, we're open. Come and share your dream, and we'll do what we can to make it happen,
Now, right there in Chicago, that's just an example. That's just one example. And they didn't have a 95,000 square foot warehouse. However, they're still hitting the same marks as far as bringing the community together, fighting food insecurity, providing jobs, and also just a better sense of well-being and togetherness. through agriculture and food. Agriculture is the seed of life. You know, everything revolves around agriculture. We all eat. We have to eat. Hopefully, you know, more than once a day. So something that is that important to our existence, it's transformative in its own right. But when you start to add culture and other social services around agriculture in that space, it can really transform an entire community.
On subject, but off, real quick to just, kind of stress the gravity of the moment, being very practical about, dynamics going on around. And so I just received a message. There's a national organization that I'm scheduled to do some presentations for this summer. I already sent the MOU, but one of the questions, they just sent back some questions about, have you been And so, here at B1AG, we're not here to give anybody any sort of medical information or any sort of opinion about, what's the best decision to make within your house. But this is, basically I do gardening presentations and activities. And so this is how serious this time is. Like I said, I'm not here to give anybody any sort of instruction on, what's the most healthy rational decision to make within your family, but something as simple and natural as doing gardening activities, if we're to be realistic about the months and years to come, could be possibly stifled by, a person's medical decisions, when dealing with experimental medicines. So saying that to say, I really hope the B1AG family really takes this opportunity serious, really looks at, okay, maybe what if the national organizations or local organizations do have a, issue with your personal medical decisions? How do you go about creating these learning activities? How do you, socially distance if necessary to teach food production? Because this is existential part of our existence, is being able to pass information to our children. So saying that to say, this is a great opportunity and it's very serious. I say it with a smile on my face, but I hope the B1AG family understands how critical it is that we have very codified, specific things that we're teaching, not only us as adults, but passing on to our children, because they're coming into a very different world than most of us, 30s, 40s and ups have experienced.
I know as far as turning to agriculture to bring community together, uh, you've done a lot. I know I've done a lot of. I've been to a lot of presentations with you, Farmer Brown. A lot of presentations over the years. And could you just share with the B1AG family how you've seen how agriculture and food, growing food, and just teaching kids about that, how it really does transform the community?
It absolutely does transform the community in ways that neither you or myself could have ever predicted. Our basic program consists of, I throw on the overalls and the straw hat and do some musical presentations just to get the children jumping around. We have different videos that you can find on YouTube just to get the conversation going. Our goal is to present agriculture in a culturally palatable format. Meaning, we don't want you to see agriculture as something that's arduous. We don't want you to see it as something antiquated, something that somebody else does. We intentionally want these children to see it as something that is exciting. What we have learned is once you actually get them touching the soil, touching the plants, you've got their energy worked up through the dance or whatever. They put the phones down. To this date, I haven't seen any of the children put the shovels and soil down to go mess around on mom or dad's iPad. And what you notice is it's a learning opportunity for the parents as well, for the guardians as well. Because as you're out there, there are these crazy guys talking to my kids about, this new thing I haven't thought about. And so we do encourage the parents to come out, because what happens is when children see that their parents or caregivers take interest in something, then they're going to take that much more interest in it. And so we've seen many of these parents now actually start gardening for themselves. We discussed a few episodes ago, some of these parents actually get into creating businesses, because as we're talking to the students within our program, and we want to intentionally talk to the parents as well. On subject, but off subject, Donald Trump ran his campaign on a 4th grade level. He had some people do some meticulous studying of how do you reach the largest demographic. And so they understood, okay, I need you to use 4th grade words. And it was very effective. He was one of the most popular presidents in modern history. And so if we can apply some of these research-based sciences to the way we're presenting agriculture to not only our students, but we're presenting it to their parents, who ultimately have the power whether or not to drive their students or walk their students to these programs. But it turns into a family and community experience. I don't want to call it a learning event, because I learned, when you bring conversation up, then you typically start having conversations with other people that learn or know different things, have different backgrounds. Let me not get into my spiritual bag, but these become spiritual engagements. Not to mention when you actually have food. And so some of the programming we do, it consists of taking some of these students to different farms, Black-owned farms. And so it's nothing like seeing this Black man or woman who is producing, whether it's lettuce for your burger or sandwich, whether it's a value-added product. It's nothing like seeing the person who grew this in real time. It's not a meme. It's not a poster. And the people are informed. What is information? You're informing. You're putting something in your mind, and it's forming the way you approach. And so here at B1AG, we like to have a very practical, intentional approach towards specifically our youth, seeing that, hey, this is something that could be done. I mean, I've seen all sorts of people shoot jump shots and run touchdowns, but oh man, I didn't know we could produce food too. And so these are smart. And like I said, the parents are equally impacted by seeing this. A lot of times we take for granted that, everybody understands where their food comes from, but it's known that the average American family, and this is across culture, is 3 generations away from a farm. 3 generations from a farm. The average American family is 3 generations from a farm. And so once again, this isn't the thing about talking down to anybody or I'll be the first to tell you, when I started my ag courses, I felt stupid. I was 30 years old. My average classmate about 18, 19 years old. A lot of them, white and rural, from rural communities. So they can answer all of these agricultural questions simply. Oh yeah, and Papa got did it. Oh yeah, we did. I had no agricultural background other than shelling peas with my granny, back when we visited Mississippi, or my mom having a backyard garden. And so I can speak personally on my path just by challenging myself and humbling myself, realizing like, man, I'm really lost. I'm ignorant. Ignorant meaning like I don't know this. And so upon learning, and this is the beauty of wanting people to get into doing their own gardens, as you start figuring out how 1 and 2 and 3 go together, you then start finding your niche. You find your passion. A lot of our children are into tech, and it is my contention that because of the blood that runs through the B1AG community's veins, once you find something you're passionate about, and once you find a specific area to address, these become the businesses of the future. These become the new niches of the future that I will say nobody else in the world can replicate like us here in what we call North America. Like I said, I keep going back to the importance of Compton and what it represented and the culture that we're all still seeing results of. I think about Outta. I think about Menace to Society. These are all movies that affected our generation. The khakis, the sagging, the gang culture. We're not here to say it's good or bad, but if we've lived long enough, we know that Compton and what it represented at a time indelibly affected our approach toward the world. What is the concept of a male? What does a male have to be? The concept of a loyal woman, what does that have to be? Jada Pickett, and so once again, this is beautiful that this is happening in Compton of all places. And so I really hope the B1AG family can appreciate the value of this. I hope everybody looks this story up on their own and really get your mind going as you're starting your garden. And we do have we have a great surprise coming for you here in the next few weeks. But we really want you to get black to the garden. Garden doesn't, it can be in your backyard, it can be on your balcony. But what this model shows is you can grow indoors too.
You can grow in your backyard, grow in your balcony. You can grow on your windowsill. You can grow on your fence line. You can grow in pots. It's limitless. You can come up with a new way to grow food yourself. Let's dig into our own bags. Let's dig into our own creativity. Let's dig into our own uh the source within us to bring the best out of us to bring forth to this world. Now, B1 family, we do got some good news coming. I'm gonna hold off to tell you, but hey, we're making moves. We're making moves. We're making moves. We're planting some seeds, and they're starting to sprout a little bit. Like if you look at the top of the screen, see the little grass up there, right up there, that little grass. That's what we're starting to do with B1AG. We're starting to break out of the ground. We're starting to break out of the ground, and I hope we can you'll ride along with us, and this is the journey we're all on together because we're all on this journey to reach food security as well as just abundance. You know, like I say, you'll never understand freedom until you can feel the feeling of being able to feed yourself, refuel yourself without having that tied to how much money is in your pocket. It's very empowering. So, Farmer Brown, I can't wait personally to get those Beats by Dre. You know what I'm saying? Get some old dog rutabagas. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
right.
saying? You know what I'm saying? Hey, it's this is a wonderful thing. This is a wonderful thing because we know we drive culture as well as spending habits of the whole world. So to be able to put a new spin in agriculture, I anticipate seeing some wonderful things. Wonderful things. So B1 family, you know what it is. If you really want to know something,
Straight out of low cash. Learn how to grow something.
till next time, B1AG family, see you on the next Daily Bread podcast. Y'all be safe, be blessed, no stress, get some sun on your face, let your toes wiggle in this dirt outside in your lawn, and keep growing. Take it easy, be blessed. Peace.